You know that sinking feeling in your stomach when another day ends and you realize you've accomplished nothing meaningful toward your dreams. You had plans, good intentions, maybe even a detailed to-do list, but somehow the hours slipped away and you're exactly where you started, except now you're carrying the additional weight of disappointment and self-criticism. If you're tired of being your own worst enemy, tired of watching opportunities pass by while you remain stuck in the same patterns, then this video contains the breakthrough you've been searching for, because in the next few minutes, I'm going to show you how to reprogram your mind using Napoleon Hill's most powerful principles to eliminate procrastination forever. Most people treat procrastination like a character flaw or a discipline problem, but Hill's research with over 500 successful individuals revealed something shocking. Procrastination isn't about laziness or lack of motivation. It's about faulty mental programming that can be completely rewritten in just 7 days. While everyone else is trying to push harder with willpower, you're going to learn how to work smarter by aligning your subconscious mind with your conscious goals, turning resistance into momentum and fear into unstoppable action. What you're about to discover goes against everything you've been told about productivity and success, but it's the same mental technology that created some of history's greatest achievements. The 7-day transformation you're about to learn isn't just theory. It's a practical system that starts working the moment you apply it, and by the end of this week, you'll look back amazed at how much you've accomplished while feeling more energized and confident than you have in years. But here's the catch. This only works if you're ready to stop making excuses and start taking immediate action, because knowledge without application is just sophisticated entertainment, and your dreams deserve better than that. Procrastination isn't just a simple case of laziness. It's actually your subconscious mind playing a sophisticated game of self-preservation that's working against your highest aspirations. Most people blame themselves for lacking willpower, but the truth runs much deeper than surface-level motivation. Your brain has been evolutionarily programmed to seek immediate comfort and avoid potential threats, which means that challenging tasks trigger an ancient survival mechanism that screams, "Danger ahead," even when logically you know that writing that report or starting that business won't actually harm you. Your primitive brain doesn't distinguish between a saber-toothed tiger and a difficult conversation with your boss. Think about it this way. Every time you've ever put something off, you've essentially rewarded your brain for choosing the path of least resistance, creating a neural pathway that says avoidance equals safety. It's like training a dog to sit by giving it a treat every time it sits, except you're training your mind to procrastinate by giving it the instant relief that comes from not facing discomfort. This creates what neuroscientists call a reward loop, where procrastination becomes addictive because it provides immediate emotional relief, even though it creates long-term stress and regret. The fascinating part is that most successful people aren't born with superior willpower. They've simply learned to recognize this mental programming and consciously override it. The real breakthrough comes when you realize that procrastination is actually fear disguised. There's comfort, fear of failure, fear of success, fear of judgment, or even fear of discovering you're not as capable as you hoped. Napoleon Hill understood this decades before modern psychology caught up, identifying that the biggest battles aren't fought in the external world, but in the battlefield of your own mind. When you start viewing procrastination not as a character flaw but as a protective mechanism gone wrong, you can begin to compassionately retrain your brain to associate action with safety instead of danger. But here's something that might surprise you about the real reason why some people seem naturally driven while others struggle constantly. Every person who has ever conquered procrastination successfully started with one fundamental shift. They moved from having vague wishes to having what Napoleon Hill called a definite purpose. Most people say they want to be successful, lose weight, start a business, or improve their relationships. But these aren't purposes. They're just pleasant daydreams floating around in their heads like clouds with no real substance. A definite purpose is different because it's specific, emotionally compelling, and so clearly defined that your subconscious mind can't help but start working toward it automatically, like a heat-seeking missile that locks onto its target and won't be deterred by obstacles or distractions. Here's how to create your definite purpose in a way that eliminates procrastination at its core. First, write down exactly what you want to achieve in such specific detail that a stranger could read it and understand exactly what success looks like for you. For example, instead of "I want to be healthier," write "I will weigh 165 pounds, run a 5K in under 25 minutes, and have the energy to play with my kids for 2 hours without feeling winded by December 31st, 2025. Second, attach a burning emotional reason that connects to your deepest values. Maybe you want to model discipline for your children, or you're tired of feeling ashamed every time you look in the mirror, or you want to prove to yourself that you can achieve anything you set your mind to. Third, read this definite purpose out loud every morning and evening, visualizing yourself already living as the person who has achieved this goal, because your subconscious mind can't distinguish between vivid imagination and reality. The magic happens when your definite purpose becomes so emotionally charged that taking action feels easier than staying stuck. Napoleon Hill studied over 500 successful individuals and found that every single one of them could articulate their primary purpose in life with absolute clarity and burning conviction. When you know exactly where you're going and why it matters more than anything else, your brain stops seeing tasks as burdens and starts seeing them as stepping stones to your inevitable success. But having a definite purpose is just the beginning. Tomorrow we'll explore how to program this new identity directly into your subconscious mind using a technique that most people have never heard of, but that can transform your entire relationship with action. Auto-suggestion is perhaps the most underestimated yet powerful tool for rewiring your brain, and Napoleon Hill considered it the bridge between conscious desire and subconscious programming. Your subconscious mind is like a faithful servant that never questions orders. It simply executes whatever instructions it receives most frequently and with the greatest emotional intensity. The problem is that most people unknowingly program their minds for procrastination by repeatedly saying things like, "I'm so lazy, I'll do it tomorrow. I'm not good at following through," or "I work better under pressure." These statements might seem harmless, but they're actually powerful suggestions that your subconscious accepts as truth and then works tirelessly to make reality. The revolutionary technique that Hill discovered involves consciously feeding your subconscious mind new instructions through repetition, emotion, and vivid mental imagery. Here's the exact process. Create a series of positive, present tense statements that describe you as someone who takes immediate action, such as, "I am a person who acts immediately on important tasks. I feel energized and focused when I tackle challenging projects, and I naturally choose progress over comfort in every situation." But here's the crucial part that most people miss. You must repeat these statements with genuine emotion and vivid visualization, imagining yourself already embodying these qualities. Spend 5 minutes every morning and evening in a quiet place, repeating your auto-suggestions while visualizing yourself taking swift, confident action on your goals, and feeling the satisfaction and pride that comes from being someone who always follows through. The science behind this is fascinating. When you combine repetition with emotion and visualization, you create new neural pathways that eventually become stronger than your old procrastination patterns. It typically takes 21 to 30 days of consistent practice to see significant changes, but many people notice shifts in their behavior within the first week because the subconscious mind is incredibly responsive to clear, emotionally charged instructions. Think of it like updating the software in your brain. You're essentially installing a new operating system that runs on action and progress instead of avoidance and delay. However, auto-suggestion alone isn't enough. You also need practical systems that support your new mental programming, which is exactly what we'll cover next when I reveal the framework that makes discipline automatic rather than dependent on motivation. The difference between people who struggle with procrastination and those who seem naturally productive isn't motivation, it's systems. Motivation is like the weather. It comes and goes unpredictably, and if you depend on it to take action, you'll find yourself paralyzed whenever the motivational storm clouds roll in. Systems, on the other hand, are like the foundation of a building. They work regardless of external conditions because they're built into the structure of your daily life. Napoleon Hill observed that successful people don't rely on feeling inspired. Instead, they create what he called habits of success that function automatically, like breathing or walking, without requiring conscious willpower or decision-making energy. The key to building procrastination-proof systems is to make the right actions easier than the wrong actions. This means designing your environment, schedule, and routines so that productive behavior becomes the path of least resistance instead of the path of most resistance. For example, if you want to exercise regularly, lay out your workout clothes the night before. Keep your gym bag by the front door and schedule your workout for the same time every day so it becomes as automatic as brushing your teeth. If you need to work on an important project, set up a dedicated workspace that's always ready to go. Eliminate potential distractions before you start. And break your work into specific time blocks with clear mini-goals for each session. The magic happens when taking action becomes easier than making excuses because you've removed all the friction and decision-making from the process. Here's a practical framework you can implement immediately. Choose 3 key activities that will move you toward your most important goal. Then design a success sequence for each one that includes preparation, execution, and reward. For instance, if writing is important to you, your sequence might be: prepare by clearing your desk and opening your document the night before. Execute by writing for 25 minutes first thing in the morning, and reward yourself with your favorite coffee or a few minutes of something you enjoy. The beauty of this approach is that it removes the daily negotiation between your motivated self and your resistant self. You've already made the decisions when your willpower was strong, so you just follow the system when your willpower is weak. But even the best systems need momentum to get started. And in the next section, I'll show you the counterintuitive technique that eliminates the overwhelming feeling that stops most people before they even begin. The biggest lie that procrastination tells you is that you need to feel ready, motivated, or prepared before you can begin. But the truth is exactly the opposite. Action creates motivation, not the other way around. And this is where the 2-minute rule becomes a game-changing strategy for breaking through mental barriers. The principle is beautifully simple. When faced with any task, commit to doing it for just 2 minutes, no more, no less. This might sound too simple to work, but it's based on a profound understanding of human psychology. Your brain's biggest obstacle to action is the overwhelming perception of how big or difficult a task appears to be. But once you're actually engaged in the activity, momentum naturally carries you forward. Think about how this works in real life. You avoid cleaning your house because it seems like an enormous job, but once you start wiping down one counter, you often find yourself naturally moving to the next surface and the next until you've cleaned the entire kitchen. You procrastinate on writing that report because it feels impossibly complex. But after writing just one paragraph, your mind starts organizing ideas, and before you know it, you've written 3 pages. The 2-minute rule works because it tricks your brain past its resistance by making the commitment so small that it feels almost ridiculous to say no. Who can't spare 2 minutes? But here's the secret. Once you start, your brain shifts from resistance mode to engagement mode, and continuing becomes easier than stopping. To implement this effectively, identify the smallest possible version of any task you've been avoiding and commit to doing just that tiny piece. If you want to start exercising, don't commit to an hour-long workout. Just commit to putting on your sneakers and walking to the end of your driveway. If you need to declutter your office, don't try to organize everything at once. Just commit to clearing off one small section of your desk. The beautiful thing about momentum is that it builds on itself. Small actions create confidence, confidence creates bigger actions, and bigger actions create life-changing results. But momentum alone isn't enough to sustain long-term change. You also need external accountability and support systems, which brings us to the final piece of the puzzle that ensures your transformation becomes permanent rather than temporary. The most successful people throughout history understood something that lone wolves often miss. Sustainable change happens in community, not in isolation. Napoleon Hill's research revealed that every great achiever had what he called a mastermind alliance, a group of people who were invested in their success and helped them stay committed to their goals, even when their individual willpower wavered. Procrastination thrives in secrecy and shame, but it withers under the light of accountability and support because it's much harder to let down people you respect than it is to let down just yourself, especially when you've grown accustomed to disappointing your own expectations. Creating effective accountability starts with choosing the right people and setting up the right structure. You want allies who believe in your potential but won't enable your excuses. People who will celebrate your progress but also call you out when you're sliding back into old patterns. This might be a formal accountability partner who checks in with you weekly, a mastermind group of like-minded individuals working towards similar goals, or even just posting regular updates on social media about your progress. The key is making your commitment public and creating consequences for both success and failure. When you know that someone is going to ask about your progress next week, your brain starts treating your goals as external obligations rather than internal wishes, which dramatically increases follow-through rates. The structure of your accountability system matters as much as the people involved. Set up regular check-ins where you report specific metrics, not just general feelings about your progress. For example, I wrote 500 words on my book project instead of I'm feeling pretty good about my writing. Create both positive consequences for hitting your targets, like celebrating with your accountability partner, and negative consequences for missing them, like donating money to a cause you dislike. Most importantly, remember that accountability isn't about judgment or punishment. It's about creating external structure that supports your internal desire to grow and change. The people who sustain transformation long-term understand that willpower is a limited resource, but accountability is renewable energy that keeps you moving forward even when you don't feel like it. Now that you have all the tools, the only question remaining is whether you'll use them starting today, or whether you'll file this away as interesting information and continue living with the frustration of unrealized potential. If you've made it this far, you're already different from 95% of people who consume content but never take action. You now have the exact 7-day blueprint that Napoleon Hill's most successful students used to transform their relationship with procrastination forever. The psychology behind the problem, the power of definite purpose, auto-suggestion techniques, unshakable systems, momentum-building strategies, and accountability structures that make failure almost impossible. But here's the brutal truth. All of this information is worthless unless you implement it starting today. Because procrastination's favorite trick is convincing you that you'll start tomorrow when conditions are better. Your moment of choice is, right now you can either close this video and continue living with the frustration of unrealized potential, or you can choose one technique from today's training and apply it in the next hour. I challenge you to pick the strategy that resonated most strongly with you and take immediate action, because every minute you delay is another minute you're reinforcing the old patterns that have kept you stuck. The person you're meant to become is waiting on the other side of action. And the only thing standing between your current reality and your dream life is your willingness to start before you feel ready. This channel exists to help you unlock the mental principles that separate achievers from dreamers, using time-tested wisdom that has created more success stories than any modern productivity hack. If you're serious about transforming your life and want to learn more strategies that actually work, subscribe now and activate notifications so you never miss the breakthrough that could change everything. Because your future self is counting on the decision you make in the next few seconds. In the comments below, tell me which technique you're going to implement first and what goal you're finally ready to pursue, without excuses. Because when you declare your intentions publicly, you've already taken the first step toward making them reality.